Hello everyone, this is Gray Merchant of Magic. Today I'll be trying something a little new. I'll be reviewing and going through some of the legendary characters of Commander Legends and Magic the Gathering Legends. These are separate things. They are also separate from the Set Legends, and from the Vault Legends, and Magic Legends, and Magic the Gathering Concepts and Legends, and the Legend Cycle, the Legend Cycle 2, and Fandom Legends, and the Obsolete Creature Type Legend. There are too many things named Legend in Magic. Was I saying something? Oh yeah. Today, I'll be looking at some legends from Legends and giving my take. We'll be starting with Commander Legends, which has 71 new and returning characters. I'll be discussing the ones that I find most interesting. First up, Alina and Helana, two of the first Commander Legends cards to be revealed. They're a great callback to some Innistrad stories and flavor texts of the past. I love their relationship being represented through the card synergy, and I also appreciate that the text explicitly refers to them as life partners instead of trying to weasel out with ambiguity. My only complaint is that their names are too similar, and that confuses me, an idiot. Amarith is just a collector nerd, and that's wonderful. My only question is that if she's been around for a long time, longer than any other dragon, shouldn't she be an elder dragon? Maybe it's just comparative to the other dragons on her plane, and she's actually just a child surrounded by smaller children. I don't have much to say about Bowlby, except that I found this image and it's incredible. The most severe page boy haircut in the multiverse, the mismatching hair and beard color, the awkward posing, it all just comes together into something simultaneously great and terrible. Blim is just Salacious B. Crumb from Star Wars. I don't have a whole lot to say about some of these characters. Seeing Breeches and Malcolm as cards is very exciting. The Ixalan arc is some of my all-time favorite magic fiction, and Breeches especially was a bombastic and enjoyable element of that story. What I find most interesting about their character excerpt is that it seems to take elements from the non-canon alternate pirate ending of Rivals of Ixalan. Perhaps all three alternate endings had an element of truth to them. Brianlin is just a discount Lothos, and he should have died instead. I blame you, Kiora. Eligeth stumbled upon a truth that no being was supposed to know, and now he exists about 5 minutes into every possible future. What a hellish existence. Poor chap. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. A Ramirez that doesn't look like Prince is not a Ramirez that I can accept. That said, his excerpt is hilarious. I love his characterization as an anti-hero version of Bozenlock. Gul Moldrak is the latest in a running gag / plot thread of nefarious salamander people in Magic, and I'm 100% for it. Amphibians are the multiverse's next big threat. I'm calling it now. I enjoy how little detail Jessica's excerpt gives on any of her transformations and why they occurred. A lot of the early Magic story was utter nonsense. All you can do looking back is sit back and enjoy the ride. I would give my life for Kedis. That is all. Keskit is a Phyrexian who was obsessed with his praetor, Sheoldred. He believed her to be the epitome of perfection and desired only to remake the world in her image. Now, I personally think that the word simp is overused, but nothing else can as accurately describe Keskit. She's not going to date you, my guy. Are you truly thumbless if you own your thumb, just isn't attached? Discuss in the comments. In my opinion, Lisa had the greatest chance of any angel on Innistrad to bring about real change. Shadows proved that the people of Innistrad could work together. Who knows what great things could have occurred if they had done so earlier? You know, I'm not 100% on the science of Nemesis' excerpt. Wouldn't irritated people sleep worse? Someone smarter than me, please comment below. Prabha comes from an unnamed Roman-inspired plane that we've seen referenced in the past. I love this plane's aesthetics and really hope we get a full visit someday. Year after year, Radiant sat upon Sarah's throne, which was not made for a being such as herself, and inflicted great tortures upon her. Just get a new chair, you idiot. Or at least invest in one of those cushions that old people use or something. If I was fighting Rograk, I would simply kick him. You know, it'd be nice to get some closure on the Singur storyline after like 15 years. Also, does Baron Singur have a first name? Maybe it's actually Baron and he's been tricking us this entire time. It's intriguing that both Tarkir legends from this set are explicitly set in the original timeline. Perhaps this serves as a hint towards the plane's future or past direction. Renaming himself Tevesh Szat and reshaping his body into that of a twisted dragon, he made it his mission to silence all life. What do you think a dragon looks like, Tevesh? Because you're definitely wrong. The companion's long dead, caught to lean against a cracked and bloody stone. The creatures howled in the distance, like decay made audible. Her staff fell from her grasp, but she made no attempt to retrieve it. There were powers that allowed her to avoid the beasts until now, but she was ultimately powerless against them. Now to places to hide, all Kata could do was wait to join her friends. But as the screeches became ever closer, another sound joined them. A sound without purpose but of infinite power. A sound that burned her mind and soul. A sound of... Did Commander Legends really need two separate, massive, tribute-demanding sea creatures? One of which is already the store-brand version of a third. I hope this one is at least hinting towards a water world. The new Akroma is yet more cat-centaur erasure, and I won't stand for it. Alharu having they as a pronoun is great, and I love their visual design. I don't quite get their mechanical design, though. The excerpt is about how they help troubled spirits pass on, but their card is about raising spirits after people die. Aren't those opposites? Is Aorumi an edgy murder version of Ariel, after already just got one in Eldraine? He knows he was ancient when the rabbit was born, and will be older still when the rabbit rejoins the earth. This, you don't bother me because you'll be dead soon mindset, is pretty metal. I have to hand it to this turtle boy. His attitude is as hard as his back. Commander Legends is full of references to the evolved landscape of Alara, perhaps none as detailed as Armix's excerpt. The 5 formerly disparate shards beginning to interact has limitless story potential, and I can't wait to learn more. I don't love characters and plot points from that racist-ass Magic trilogy being referenced. I implore the story team to reread it and pay better attention this time. I want more Orc, please. That is all. I'm curious what plane Dargo hails from. His aesthetic resembles that of the Brazen Coalition, but Ixalan isn't known to have giants. Dominaria and Mercadia also have pirates, but he doesn't quite fit their vibes either. Perhaps he comes from the same mysterious pirate plane as Dockside Extortionist. Glenn Ross seems like a really nice guy. I'd be willing to overlook the fact that he looks like the Pirates of the Caribbean logo if he ever wanted to go boiling or something. Vorinclex has taken a great interest in his chicks, mindless golems, believing that they have the potential to become the ultimate predator, or at least make good test subjects for his own experiment. I thought Vorinclex was against experimentation and machinations. I'm not really sure on the story consistency of this excerpt. The Azorius Senate, Living Goat Pack, and God Emperor Nicobolus are frequent subjects of the review's satirical plays. The idea of in-universe Ravnican satire is hilarious, and I desperately want to see more examples of it. Puppet Jace needs friends. I don't particularly understand the connection between Quain's character and his card. How does Group Hug Draw represent speed and impulsivity? What I do understand is that I recognize a crush when I see one, though. It's odd that Commander Legends has 3 separate legendary creatures with characterization themed around living a bit in the future. Obeka is definitely my favorite, though. She has the best flavor/mechanic consistency, and I love her art. On the same subject, why does Commander Legends have 2 separate characters who are helpful friends to spirits? I wish they mixed it up a little bit more. My love for Tago is no secret. I would to go to hell and back for him. He's not a rock, he's a prized jewel. Wyleth found a sword. That's it. A very strong finish. Overall, I enjoyed most of the legends of Commander Legends. The returning characters were a solid mix of beloved icons and deep pulls, and the flavor and mechanical cohesion is remarkable. My feelings towards the new characters are a little more mixed. Some definitely have more compelling personalities and stories than others, and there is a little too much overlap between some of them. However, the ones I didn't love are definitely the minority, and I found the combined experience very enjoyable. Character excerpts were much better than the nothing that supplemental sets often get. I hope they become the baseline going forward. Next up is Magic the Gathering Legends. It exclusively presents pre-existing characters, however, it brings to light some overlooked and new story elements, so it's still worthy of discussion. Niv Mizzet's section confirms that he is the last intelligent dragon on Ravnica, a plot point that had been ambiguous in the past. However, it forgets to mention that he was directly responsible for the genocide of his species, which I personally feel is an important factor. At least give that factoid a footnote. Also, am I the only one who thinks that Nivi was a terrible choice for the Living Guild Pack? He's egotistical, maniacal, and biased as all heck. I wouldn't have voted for him. Do you know that Tomric's dead parents raised him as ghosts? If I were him, that's the only thing I would ever talk about. How big is Asperia? In her Supreme Judge artwork, a humanoid's window is smaller than one of her eyes, but she seems a little bit more reasonably sized in other artworks. Regardless, she is frankly too big in my opinion. I find any species bigger than a human inherently threatening. Why is Krenko only an alleged criminal? His card name has Mob Boss in it, for goodness sake. What dirt does he have on Jay and Ellie to get this kind of good press? Arcades Sabath's page finally leads Rest to a long-standing point of contention, how he met his death. It confirms that he met his end in a Planeswalker duel. It also confirms that you're a loser, Arcade Cabinet. Urza's section pulls no punches in its description of him, flat out calling him an arrogant jerk. I'm glad that Wizards isn't attempting to whitewash his various misdeeds by depicting him as an unambiguous hero. Joda's page notes him explicitly as a descendant of Urza. This would seemingly clear up the previously unknown heritage of Harbin, who may or may not have been Urza's son. With the unambiguous declaration of Joda as a descendant of Urza, and Harbin being the only known possible child of Urza, it would appear that his parentage is finally established. Is Gwee aging backwards, Benjamin Button style? That is very disconcerting. Memnarch is explicitly stated to have been driven mad by Phyrexian oil. This plot point has been discussed by Magic creators in the past, but to my knowledge, this is the first time a fully canon source has confirmed it. I appreciate the level of story connectivity that this detail demonstrates. However, I hope that Memnarch still had some agency and wasn't just a mindless puppet, as I personally find that characterization more interesting. Atrax's description as a sort of evil trans-guild courier is intriguing and makes perfect sense with what we know of her previously. I can only speculate on the ramifications of Urabrask declining to contribute to her creation. Thrawn gives Gullenra a run for his money on the magic character I'd most want to hang out with, or maybe get adopted by. Slowbad is not in this book, even as I mentioned in another character's excerpt. Seems like an odd exclusion. In another example of the book clearing up a matter of debate, Sherm's mate Crucius is explicitly referred to as a planeswalker. Given his very important role in Alara's story as the original creator of Ethereum, I would not be surprised if we saw him again one day. Edgar Markov's section is notable in that it refers to him in the present tense. Elsewhere in the book, dead characters are referred to in the past tense. This leads credibility to the theory that Edgar lives. I'm calling it now that he's going to be in our next visit to Innistrad. It's very odd that the Innistrad section of this book only features a single demon, and it's not Griselbrand. I have nothing against Thengar, but between the two, I know which one I would have included. Oddly enough, Erebos' section includes his mythical origin, but not his true one. Erebos was not actually born of Heliod's shadow. In fact, he was created from human faith before Heliod or any other monocolored god. No more pro-Heliod propaganda. I've always been a little confused by the story's handling of Kumina. Was he really a tyrant to Burzaka if he controlled it for like 5 minutes and wasn't particularly oppressive? I think we're meant to see some big dark side to his personality that just isn't backed up by the lore. Did you know that when threatened, Queen London can spray life gain up to 25 feet? That brings us to the end of the book, with only acknowledgements left. Family members, Wizards employees, wait a minute. Special thanks to Krinko. There is a conflict of interest here. I enjoyed Magic the Gathering Legends for what it was, but I was disappointed with what that ended up being, if that makes sense. Despite some sources referring to it as a reference guide, it is much more of an art book. Don't get me wrong, art books are great, but since there are about a dozen other Magic art books already, including one from just 2 years ago that was also about Legends, a true reference guide or story encyclopedia would be especially exciting in its uniqueness. I most enjoyed Legends when it clarified an ambiguous plot point or gave a new plot thread. Unfortunately, too much of the book's text is information that is readily available for free on sites like Wikia. However, I will ultimately try to remove my expectations and review this book for what it is. As an art book, it's very polished and the selection of art is excellent. It features a mixture of card art, many fully sized for the first time, and some concept art. The concept art was my favorite, as much of it was unfamiliar to me and quite possibly newly published. In terms of being a guide to Magic characters, it does its job, especially for players who are newer to the story. That said, there were some questionable decisions in terms of which characters were and weren't included. A possible solution would have been to condense certain groups, such as the Amonkhet gods and Apex Predators, into one section each that discussed each member. This would both leave space to cover a greater number of characters and prevent odd cases like only a single Predator getting their own section, or Vedrak being the only Apex Predator not to get their own section, despite having as much of a presence in a career story as any other. Which is to say none, but that's a discussion for another day. Planeswalkers getting minimal mention also leads to some awkwardness. I understand the reason for it, but it's hard to fully explain Innistrad without including Sorin, for example. Additionally, I don't understand why Bolas and Urza have sections, but other plot-relevant Planeswalkers with creature cards like Karn don't. If this was someone's first exposure to the Magic story, there would definitely be some gaps in their knowledge. You could certainly do worse though. Its general expansiveness makes it a more than decent jumping off point. If you're interested in buying Legends, I would personally recommend going with the physical version in order to fully enjoy the project's greatest strength, its art. Thank you for watching. Who's your favorite new or classic Magic character? Do you have thoughts on any of Magic's numerous things called Legends? Let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe to support this channel. Also, check the description to a link for a charity campaign that I'm currently running for a great cause. I'm sorry, Mr. Krinko. I'll put out a retraction. I swear. Ah!